Ladies and gentlemen, coming soon, a podcast you've all been waiting for. The movie podcast to end all movie podcasts. A podcast that discusses and critiques the best of the best and the worst of the worst movies playing at a theater near you. With a host whose opinions have been deemed as fact by your favorite fact checkers. And that's a fact. Without further ado, let me introduce you to the movie maestro, the tyrant of theater, the gumshoe of review, the man that makes theater employees and Hollywood execs shiver by his mere presence. Ladies and gentlemen, the judge, the jury, the sultan of cinema, Justin Henson. Welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. Now, before we begin, if you haven't checked it out yet, make sure you tune in to episode 23 of the Cult-Worthy Classic, where I join host Antonio as we discuss one of the greatest comedies of all time, and that's, of course, the Mel Brooks classic, The Producers. You can find the link in the episode bio. It is an amazing episode that was a lot of fun to do, and I hope you all enjoy it. Now, this week, we originally had scheduled reviews for Minions: Rise of Gru and Mr. Malcolm's List, but unfortunately, our household had a hit of COVID by everybody but me. So I've been at home this past week. With these change of plans, I still have films to review. I just had to transition it to a stream week. And next week, we will have an even bigger show with Thor, Love and Thunder, Minions, The Rise of Gru, and Mr. Malcolm's List. But we still have a great show and some brand new movies that are available to stream right now, including the Hulu original film starring Emma Thompson, Good Luck Leo Grande, the new sports biopic Disney Plus exclusive Rise, and the Hulu exclusive epic adventure The Princess. And finally, available to stream exclusively on Disney Plus is the live recording of the off-Broadway show Trevor the Musical. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
You need people like me.
The Movie Wire.
I'm Leo. You must be Nancy. May I come inside?
Yes. So I've made a list of things that I'd like to get through. Number one, I perform oral sex on you. Number two, you perform oral sex on me. Number three, we do a 69, if that's what it's still called. 4, me on top. 5, doggy style.
That all sounds very achievable.
Have I booked enough time?
You want to do it all today?
Yes. No. I've never had an orgasm. There are nuns out there with more sexual experience than me. It's embarrassing. Do you want me to brush my teeth? Oh, God. This is crazy.
Nancy?
It's terrible. It's wrong.
Nancy?
Yes?
Come have a dance with me.
I guess I'm frustrated.
Is Leo Grande your real name?
Thinking about all the places I should have been by now.
No, I simply don't understand why you're doing this.
This to save up for college?
Oh, how wonderful. Are you really?
No.
I've always been ashamed of my body.
Your body's beautiful. I wish you could see that. Everyone wants something different. I don't judge my clients unless they're total arseholes.
I've never done anything interesting in my life. You're the only adventure I've ever had.
Intimacy can lead to deep conversation, honesty, improved happiness, and a sense of overall well-being. Some are open and some struggle with the sense of comfort with intimacy, and even the meaning of what intimacy is. The same goes for Nancy Stokes, played by Emma Thompson in this Hulu original movie. Thompson plays Nancy, a 55-year-old widow who is yearning for some adventure, human connection, and some sex. Some good old sex. There are many films that have tackled the topic of sex and intimacy. It is a hard topic to cover in film and execute it right. From 50 Shades of Grey to Original Sin to Sirens to Eyes Wide Shut. There is an overlaying theme to these movies that seems seductive, taboo, dark, dirty, and gritty. There hasn't been a film in recent memory as I give this review that I can think of that surrounds a film with sex and intimacy and portrays it in a positive, natural way, and it involves a male escort. And the film is shot pretty much in one setting. This would only work if the filmmakers had a good dialogue, good written characters, and a likable cast. And I will say, studios should take notes from this film. Director Sophie Hyde and writer Kathy Brand have turned the tables when it comes to this topic in film: sex. Sex is a topic in our lives from our younger teenager years until the end of our life. the question would arise to why is it such a hard topic in film to cover where it doesn't feel like the studio's making it sleazy to ensure the statement of sex sells stays relevant. The film is not sleazy, it's not dark, it invites the audience into an open conversation, and it isn't afraid to show the honest vulnerabilities that many may face. What director Hyde and writer Brand do is create a film that tackles the topic of intimacy and sex in an honest way. The two topics are in fact different, but can be treated the same. They give a taboo plot of Nancy Stokes wanting to explore her sexual needs by hiring a male escort, Leo Grande, played by Daryl McCormack, to help fulfill her needs, if you will. Part of the success of this film is likely due to the fact Sophie Hyde's experience in directing documentary films, where she understands the importance of studying the characters. And the surprise here is the writing from Katie Brand, who has acted in numerous roles, including Nanny McPhee Returns, Walking on Sunshine, and numerous TV specials. But what got me when looking up her writing credits to find what inspired her to write such a sexually honest film was that she wrote a miniseries entitled Glued. And it's a few years old about a married couple whose relationship evolved after binge watching a TV show. And I remember this TV show and finding it brilliant. Her work from Glued you can see trickle into this film, but in a different style. Hyde and Brand seemed to be on the same page when they went to make this film. They both knew the end goal of what they were trying to create. Emma Thompson's character Nancy is well written and realistic, with an outstanding classy performance by the always lovely Emma Thompson, who is a character that the audience can either relate to or sympathize with. The role of Nancy almost seems like it was written just for Miss Thompson. It is one of those roles after viewing it you can't picture any other actress pulling it off. The initial meeting between Nancy and Leo while they first meet shows a very nervous Nancy and a very confident Leo, as you would expect with an escort and a first-time 55-year-old woman ordering an escort. It would be very easy to make this situation into an overdone attempt at comedy, but the filmmakers have the film completely under control and know what they're going after. The filmmakers never go after just sex. They build up conversation. They have the characters speak their needs. These are real human conversations that Nancy and Leo have. And there is a human nature of being closed-lipped when first becoming intimate in a sexual situation. And Hyde realizes this and doesn't try and hide it. Instead, she goes all in. Nancy would be a great character study if Hyde and Brand wanted her to be. But instead of hiding and letting the audience decide and dissect her character, she was smart. Following the theme of intimacy, we learn as we go along with Leo, the pain, the insecurities, and we as an audience don't judge her, we understand her. What was smart by writer Brand is not just to assume that Nancy is the only one that has intimacy issues. There are many different types, and the film takes us on a journey of both characters' pain and insecurities. But the film brings up and also begs the question of what would lead a person to becoming an escort. With each encounter, the film piques our interest, and that's not because of the conversation or the topic of sex, but to wonder what level of intimacy they will reach so we can learn more about them. There are multiple scenes where the pair are just laying in bed or sitting, and there is sexual undertone, but the conversation is more interesting, and I loved watching and discovering alongside with both of the characters. Given a film about sex, the filmmakers treat it like a first date for the audience, and each encounter doesn't always involve sex. There are conversations, there's a build of trust, and Leo recognizes this and keeps the audience curious if it's his job or if he actually cares for Nancy. The character of Leo is almost a mystery the entire movie of what his intentions are, and that adds to each interaction with Nancy to feel fresh and brand new. During the end of the third act, the conflict that arises seems to be kind of forced, and I didn't feel a natural transition to. The film seemed entirely natural until that moment of conflict between Nancy and Leo. I would have rather seen a conflict that arises from a natural conversation of discovery between the two, instead of adding an additional situation. But it doesn't hold back the movie, and in fairness, in a way, we can understand Nancy's decision during this conflict. The film tackles a tough situation, tough topic, and it does so in a positive, pleasing, entertaining, and satisfying way. The film will have your eyes glued to it, just like when I walk past one of my wife's reality shows. This will keep you entertained for the entire runtime due to the smart dialogue. It is rare to have a film like this with limited sets and have it dialogue-driven. This is one of Emma Thompson's best performances, and the character chemistry is in top form between Thompson and McCormack. My recommendation, open up a bottle of wine with your partner, put on something comfortable, turn down the lights, maybe put on some perfume or cologne, I don't know, and enjoy Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. I'm giving Good Luck to You, Leo Grande, 4 stars.
Do you love comics, movies, video games, and more? We do too. Come tune in to Josh and our cast of colorful co-hosts on Talking SMAC. Available on all your favorite podcasting platforms.
My greatest fan. Thank you for the love. Tell us your name.
Trevor, what are you doing?
Telling everyone my name.
Well, can you tell everyone a little bit to the left, kiddo? You're blocking the TV.
Every day's just a day that's been ticking away, leading up to the day of my destiny. Now it's all taking shape, soon I'll finally escape every day of this middle school misery.
Trevor's not one of us. He's weird. Writing Pinky's name all over your diary? Everyone saw it. What is wrong with you?
Even though I don't have muscles or play football or go on dates, or something.
Trevor.
Cause all I am right now is right now. All I am right now is right now. I am on and on and on and on and on. Let's go, let's go, let's go. On with the show.
All right, so musicals are a love them or hate them type of genre. When I'm not at the cinema, you will find me in an aisle seat at the orchestra level, seeing or reviewing whatever play and or musical that is out. Believe it or not, musicals are an important piece of our culture and another way to help support the story in a more complex way, and takes a tremendous amount of skill, especially when live on stage. And just like film, you're going to have your good musicals, your bad musicals, and musicals that disappear in your memory as quickly as it comes in. Live theater, direct to streaming, or videos becoming more and more of a trend now, especially with theaters being shut down during the pandemic. Playhouses and theaters need to find their way for their content to be shown. This is a great way to introduce people that haven't seen a live Broadway show to that genre. From Newsies to Hamilton to Billy Elliot, and cable networks have even attempted to capture the trend with releasing a series of live musicals such as Rent, Hairspray, Annie, Christmas Story, and Sound of Music. Some of these were met with mixed reviews and a trending down ratings after each production. Love them or hate them, in my opinion, there is nothing better to engulf a viewer than with a good musical. I'll emphasize the word good. Good musical. A good musical will use music to support the story and not the other way around where the characters support the music. The two have to work in unison. There are musicals that have none of the above, like I'll give an example of Shrek the Musical that went to, I think, Netflix for a live Broadway stream. With the success of Newsies, the stage recording, and Hamilton, it was almost a given Disney was going to release more and more of these live Broadway recordings. We now have the off-Broadway stage recording of Trevor the Musical. Prior to its release on Disney Plus, I have heard small whispers of this musical, but I never saw it live. But before I get into the review, let me get this out of the way before we deep dive into it. If you are browsing through Disney Plus and see the bright pink and purple cover that Disney uses in a lot of their original content advertisements and the word musical, and think you should just hit play and walk away so your kids are entertained, then this is for you. Trevor the Musical is a very brave choice for Disney to put on their platform, and again, I will applaud Disney for this choice. Trevor the Musical does cover some subject matter that adults should be in the room from start to finish during this Broadway production. It opens up a conversation and a good opportunity to have a dialogue with your kids. This movie is a perfect example of why film is so important to keep away from censorship and how it can help start that conversation. The film covers tough subject matter that little kids all the way up to teenagers might have a hard time to digest or understand, such as an attempted suicide, sexual identity, sexual curiosity, sexual embarrassment, and of course, bullying. These are things that are still very much active in our kids' lives. And there are some parents out there that struggle with how to bring it up or tackle tough conversations like these. The film hints that its setting is in 1981, around the time Reagan was shot, and there's a scene in Trevor in the Musical where the parents have to have a conversation with their son about possibly being gay. The parents, of course, struggle, especially being in the 1980s, since then we do have resources and we have come a long way, but unfortunately the road is longer than it should be. The parents struggle to have a conversation with their son and eventually pass it off in a way that does more damage than good. So I strongly suggest that parents sit and watch this film with your child or your teen and take the opportunity that this film opens up to have a dialogue. With that said, let's get into the review. Trevor the Musical is about, of course, Trevor, played by newcomer Holden Hagelberger, who is beginning to discover himself through the awkward stages of high school when an incident at school suddenly puts Trevor in the wrong spotlight. He struggles to navigate his own identity and determine how he fits into such a challenging world. The stars of this production consist of a majority of kids, as it should be, as it's based in a high school setting, which does have risk and reward to it. The production kicks off on a pretty rocky start when the musical started to remind me of watching an actual high school production. The curtain goes up and the young actors feel out their audience, and there's some hesitancy until they get their stage legs in and build some confidence from the audience. This is a natural reaction that you see for some younger actors. This makes the first musical number hard to watch as there's some shakiness to the performers' voices. The musical number I'm referring to is On With the Show, and the follow-up song Hagelberg sings with his best friend Jason, played by Diego Lucano, entitled Underneath, that is filled with shaky vocals that are completely out of tune. The scene underneath, if you take out the vocals, the musical number is very entertaining and a silly one. And it's a good scene between Trevor and Jason as they discover their natural friendship that doesn't sound fake or artificial. It takes about 25 minutes into the film production that Hagelberger gets his confidence and his stage leg set. You can sense the transformation where he performs the song 1-2 with the popular kids as he attempts to teach the basketball team how to dance. This is one of two songs that I really took away from the musical. And even though it's choreographed very sloppy, it's still entertaining to watch. Viewers need to remember that this wasn't a full Broadway production, in fact, an off-Broadway, which is almost like the B-movie version of a Broadway production. And there's nothing wrong with that, as long as the story is there, in which the story is solid here, and the pacing of it moves along very nicely. The book was written by Dan Collins, who really channels high school life, the fears of acceptance in social settings, or just having to be relevant in a world that sometimes feels like nobody notices nor cares. The tone of Trevor the Musical is its biggest kryptonite by staying light and bright, especially during the first two acts. That invites the audience into a story, but going into the final two acts, it suffers when Trevor's world starts to fall apart. There is little to no difference in the tone of the production, and this could be due to the off-Broadway low budget, but even the simple lighting effects they use to tease the tone changes isn't consistent, and it would have been even more important to show the struggle and torture that Trevor is going through. Simple effects would have helped invite the audience to feel the struggle and pain Trevor is going through. This hurts the emotional impact by the end of the production, where Hagelberger's performance gets stronger as the musical goes on to a powerful performance at the climax, but there is no lighting changes that supports his performance. There is a fantastic scene that the production does succeed in a crescendo of bravery where Trevor tries to call his crush with an inspirational Ain't No Mountain High Enough performance, but here too, the lighting just seems off, but at the same time, it is pleasing to watch. The production of Trevor the Musical can be at times cringy to watch, but I think that's the point, to not hold back from the awkwardness of Trevor's character and the awkwardness of teenage years. It can also be a frustrating ride to watch as well. It's an inconsistent roller coaster where right when you think the cast is getting better and finding their footing, it drops in quality and in something else. The musical numbers are a hit or miss. My rule of thumb is if I can walk out of a musical with at least two songs that I remember, it's a success. Trevor does have two good songs, which is 1-2 and Your Life Is Over / Ain't No Mountain High Enough. The other songs of the production have some great lyrics, but are in desperate need to some bigger orchestras to help support the vocals. Trevor the Musical has a powerful message to send, and an important one. The intentions of this musical is admirable, and it could be something great with some basic tweaks and designing, but the emotional impact it goes for isn't as impactful to the audience as it thinks it is. Hagelberger grows on you throughout the musical, and his performance gets stronger where you cringe in the beginning, but when this kid gets going, he becomes a powerhouse to reckon with towards the last two acts. Sadly, the film is unbalanced and misses the mark on so many little things, but the little things add up, and by the end of Trevor the Musical, I feel like I wanted more, and not in the way where I didn't want it to end, but I wanted more from it holistically to gain something from it. If you're not a fan of musicals, this won't change your mind, but if you're a parent that wants something to start a conversation with your kids, this is an admirable viewing. Trevor the Musical gets an A for effort, but a C on execution. I'm giving Trevor the Musical 2 stars. So hard to keep track and even have time to read all the trending topics on the web. Now there's a new app to help with all of those problems. Newsly is an audio app for iOS and Android. It picks up web articles about the most trending topics on the web at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time in the history of the internet, the entire web becomes listenable. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, science, to Bitcoin. You can even follow Kardashian. It will find you the latest articles and read them to you out loud. And guess what? They have podcasts as well. Explore trending podcasts from over 50 countries. The Movie Wire is now a featured podcast on the Newsly app. Download and use Newsly for free now. The link will be in the description of this episode. You can also use one of my promo codes that you will find in the description as well to get you a 1-month free premium subscription. Stop scrolling, start listening, download Newsly today.
Once upon a time, in a magical castle, the king's daughter was locked away in a tower.
You made a promise to me that your daughter will be my wife.
I'm not a piece of property to be traded. But these guys, with the wrong princess.
I like a girl in lace.
I have to save my family. Let's get you ready.
Not exactly ladylike behavior.
I'll never stop until I'm holding. You're still beating heart. I underestimated you. I'm used to that.
Who are you?
I'm the princess.
A brand new Hulu original movie, The Princess. That is no fairy tale that you grew up with. The princess starts off with almost a fairy tale state as the camera pans to a tower and the title of the film appears. The film is about a strong-willed princess that refuses to wed a cruel sociopath who's intent on taking the king's throne. The princess is kidnapped and locked into a tower, but not for very long. The film takes no time to get going and stars Joey King as the princess, who played in Independence Day Resurgence, A Conjuring, Battle of Los Angeles, and a personal favorite of mine, Quarantine. This is one of those films that really confuses me on what it wants to accomplish and who the film is for. The film reminded me of an old Mad TV character, Stuart, that was a grown man acting as an infant that would shout out, "Look what I can do!" anytime he wanted attention. The film is set up like a video game where we find King go from one single enemy at a time, like a boss battle in a video game, to another. And about 30 minutes into this film, it starts to feel segmented. I was waiting for a "You win" logo to show up at some point in the film. The film doesn't take its time to give any substance or setup to introduce the princess, but rather just lets the characters say nothing and start kicking the crap out of some bad guys. I think as a promotion to this film, the filmmakers should have taken a picture of the script and had people guess the amount of pages, like the old guess how many gumballs in the jar game. My guess would have been 10 pages. There is very little said in this movie, which the filmmakers would have needed to have a strategy of how to keep the audience entertained. Their strategy is pretty clear that they were going for an action extravaganza. It's hard to critique King's performance in this due to the fact there is not a lot to go off of. Her talent as an actress is wasted here. I will say this film does take a lot of body language to get the pacing going when King is not stabbing somebody, and Joey King does have that going for her, is the remarkable body language he presents when she's not speaking. The princess takes a simple plot of the redone, usually subplot of a normal princess trapped in a tower, but you can tell the filmmakers wanted to add a theme of women empowerment. And they even made Joey King's character, who plays a princess, that can kick some ass. Even though, yes, Joey King's character does kick quite a bit of ass, but it almost does the opposite of what I think the filmmakers were going for. It doesn't represent women empowerment. For the love of God, let the princess say something. The second half of the movie adds a bit more dialogue, but it's nothing that stands out, and it's quite rudimentary and simplistic, and doesn't add any depth or make the dialogue worth the wait from the first half of the film. The film's action sequences are a hit or a miss. Some of them are just okay, and some pleasing to watch, but others seem like they are just missing something, especially when you know a fight scene is about to happen. The audience can see it coming, which doesn't add any excitement of an action movie. An adventure action epic should keep the audience on a roller coaster and shouldn't give the viewer a predictable timetable of events that are about to happen. There are slow motion shots where the slow motion is even too fast, and it notices a lot of defects in the action sequences, and some bad edited stunts that will make the audience that's paying attention shake our heads in shame. There is a great scene, though, I will give a credit on this scene, that I really did enjoy, which involves a suit of armor that gets set on fire, and the ending of that scene made me chuckle out loud. One particular is a scene that's outlandish, is when the princess is surrounded about 20 plus guards and jumps off an edge that must be about 50 to 60 feet high, and it comes out without a scratch. This happens in the second half of the film, where I even think the filmmakers were trying hard to come up with fight scenes that seemed fresh and new, but sadly they fell flat with that. The film was directed by Levi Kiet, who has released now 3 movies in 2022, The Requiem, The Ancestral, and now The Princess. It almost feels like Kiet was in over his head with this one, where he gets the tone and the environment just right, but everything else just does not work. It's like painting a stick figure on a beautifully painted landscape. Kiet has a lot of great shots in this film, and I found myself looking more and more at the environment than I did the actors. Kiet has a great eye for camera shots and knows when to use wide-angle and close-up shots appropriately. We saw that in his Alicia Silverstone film, The Requiem, which, again, had pacing issues and characters we could care less about, but again, Kiet has a talent for angles and capturing an environment to make it look interesting. But his downfall is always character direction. Not to give all the credit to Kiet, Kiet has a talented cinematographer, Lorenzo Senatore, to support him, who worked on Wonder Woman, Beauty and the Beast, and Spectre. Senatore has the biggest resume out of all the filmmakers attached, and it shows. Take out the cast, and the film would look beautiful. When Kiet agreed to take this film on, maybe he should have sit down with the writers Ben Lustig and Jake Thornton and asked where the rest of the script was. Lustig and Thornton don't have a lot of background when it comes to writing a motion picture, and this shows. I have a feeling Hulu had a totally different vision of this when they were first pitched the film, and could have been something giving the idea of it. The film is clear who it's targeted for, a no-point action flick to turn your brain off and enjoy the action scenes. But I'm afraid of just turning your brain off by the end of it, it will in fact make you dumber. I'm giving The Princess 1.5 stars.
They said I didn't belong. That it was impossible.
Look out! Jammed by the rookie!
That we'd never make it.
It is a very special night for the Atanacupo family.
That we couldn't have an impact. But we knew together, we couldn't lose.
Do you hoop?
Hoop? Basketball. Show up play? Papa always talks about opportunity. What if this is it?
It's okay. We'll go again. We fall to get back up.
If we're good, we can help mom and dad. But one person in the family scores, the whole family scores.
You're illegal immigrants. We can get you all sent back home.
This is our home.
Give it your all.
They can knock us down, but they can't stop us from getting back up.
A new Disney Plus exclusive that's based on the real-life story about the family that produced the first trio of brothers to become NBA champions in the history of the league. There is a lot to respect in this film right off the bat. There are no villains, no evils, conniving managers. The film doesn't seem exaggerated as a biopic. Rise feels real, which is hard to say about a lot of biopics out there. The film is about three Nigerian Greek brothers who are raised in hiding and thrust into the fame of professional basketball. Parents Vera and Charles moved to Greece from Nigeria for a chance at a better life for their family. The couple work hard to provide for their 5 children while the reality of deportation from a difficult citizenship system threatens the dreams for their children. The family works together to sell souvenirs to tourists at Athens. When an opportunity arises, the brothers take their frustrations to the public basketball court. Individually, they quickly realize that although they have no experience in the sport, they discover a gift. Now, there's a scene in this film where the father of the family is meeting with a representative in Greece to legally gain citizenship, and she advises them that they need to get on an actual payroll to gain their work permit, in which the father replies, to get on a payroll, they need a work permit, with the representative speechless and silently turns her back and walks away. These are dead-end situations the family are present over and over and over in the film. And each situation they arise to, it's a roadblock, and that stays with the audience during this film. And it builds frustration on the situation that this family is in. As we get frustrated as an audience, the family takes control of our emotions to tell us it'll be okay. The family is faced with the impossible in a foreign country with 5 kids in hiding, waiting to gain citizenship the right way. Their situation seems impossible even though we know the outcome at the end of this story. The Antetokounmpo family is truly the definition of strength, and I take a stronger message away from this film other than the obvious of the 3 brothers ending up being NBA stars. The film demonstrates hardship and coming together as a family to stay a family. That life will have hardships that are not always in our control, but the theme of the family togetherness is a lesson to take from this film, and it is brought to the audience in a very gentle and respectful way, without exaggerating, without adding villains, without adding anything really negative other than the situation they're in. This is demonstrated by, again, Father Charles and Mother Veronica, with outstanding performances by Deo Okinyi and Itai Padaki. The climax and the boys' success should be the point of the movie, but it's bigger than what it wants to be. What I can appreciate about this film, this is a family that hits hardship after hardship, and in a lot of sports films, they use exaggerated villains or a jerk to portray these roadblocks, almost as an unfair excuse. This film stays true to the message of Charles and Veronica and the message that they give their kids, and instead of giving excuses, they find hope within each other, which is a very refreshing thing to see in an actual sports biopic. It's something that is new and refreshing to see. Now, you do have characters such as a citizenship representative or a landlord that locks the family out, but they are not exaggerated and they're not villains. They are normal people who have their own jobs, and the filmmakers ensure you understand both points of view. This could be taken as inspirational sports biopic, but it's more than what it wants to be. Now, of course, you're going to have basketball scenes in it. You're going to have basketball clips, and you know the ending result, but it doesn't conquer the movie with overdone sports scenes. It focuses on the family with the behaviors that they were raised with and the power of encouragement. The likability of the characters and performances keep this movie alive. With the intent of the sports scenes, it almost slows the film down. Not to say it's not refreshing to see a film that keeps things realistic, but the basketball scenes' editing and pacing were uninteresting and poorly edited to add nothing fresh to the screen. Every time I'd see a sports screen, I would hope they would pan back to the family interactions. If you're looking for a stand-up and cheer, artificial, fast-paced sports biopic, this isn't it. The film surrounds family values, struggle, faith, and the power what a family bond can do. You will, on the other hand, stand up and cheer for this incredible family. Some will cheer for the success of the boys. Me, I stood up and cheered for the success of the parents, for the struggle they went through for their children. I'm giving Rise 3 stars. All right, and that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. Like I said, I will be back next week with a brand new set of movies and brand new reviews. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit follow for The Movie Wire wherever you listen to me. And don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also keep up to date with me on The Movie Wire by following me on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show. Until next week, stay for After the Credits to show support to the filmmakers that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film, and make sure you support your local movie theaters.
A verdict has been made on this episode of The Movie Wire by your host, Justin Henson. He thanks you for listening to the show. You can follow Justin on Instagram and Twitter at Movie Wire Show, or visit his website, www.themoviewire.com. Oh, and don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'm sure he'd love to hear from you. Until next time, We will see you at the movies.